So is the Washington football team going to trade for Marcus Mariota instead of trying to seek out a trade for Russell Wilson or Derrick Carr? Michael Lombardi of The Athletic reported that the Washington football team is very interested in Marcus Mariota. Lombardi said that there has been a lot of conversations regarding a possible trade with Marcus Mariota, a lot from the NFC, and especially one NFC East team, the Washington football team. Last offseason, Mariota signed with the Las Vegas Raiders for a $17.6 million 2-year deal, with the first year having guaranteed money over $7 million. Per the details of the contract, Mariota's cap hit will be $10 million in 2021. If Mariota winds up starting for any team this season, especially the Las Vegas Raiders, then that cap hit would double. So according to Lombardi, any team that decides to trade for Marcus Mariota is going to have to renegotiate that deal. Lombardi also went on to say that it wouldn't be a bad idea for the Washington football team to try to trade for Marcus Mariota. Obviously, Mariota is still very young at 27. He's a very mobile quarterback, athletic, and has a pretty good arm. But let's just keep in mind that every quarterback out there, especially all of the big-name starting quarterbacks who might be in new locations come 2021, are all going to be tied back to the Washington football team in one form or the other. And that's only because that the Washington football team is doing its due diligence and reaching out and seeing what the deal is with any of these players. Because obviously, even though that the Washington football team has signed Taylor Heinicke to that 2-year deal, there's nothing to say that Heinicke is going to be the actual starter for this 2021 season. So if Washington can actually go out and get a true starter and someone that I dare say you would call a franchise quarterback, then they obviously need to do their due diligence. Now, I made a video just this past week and posted it on how the Washington football team was going to try to make a trade for Russell Wilson. Now, obviously, I don't know that to be true, but I think it is definitely still a possibility. And the football team has kind of reached out to kind of gauge what the situation is with Russell Wilson. Obviously, we don't know if in fact Seattle is going to get rid of Russell Wilson, if they're shopping Russell Wilson, or what the case may be. Certainly the Washington football team is going to be interested in Russell Wilson if the price is right. But if we look at Marcus Mariota, he has had some success in the NFL so far. He's brought his team to the playoffs. He's won a playoff game. He's actually put up some pretty good numbers. And it wasn't until that 2019 season that Marcus Mariota got benched in favor of Ryan Tannehill. And of course, the Tennessee Titans never looked back after that. And certainly, Mariota fits the profile of what Washington may be looking for in terms of a quarterback. Kind of like what I said with Russell Wilson. Marcus Mariota, he's very athletic. He can run. He can certainly pass. He's got a very strong arm. But Ron Rivera has came out and said that they're not necessarily looking for a specific type of quarterback. They're just looking for a good quarterback that's going to be able to lead this team to some wins. And so if that quarterback happens to be a very athletic running for them, the offense can be flexible, because obviously it had to be when Alex Smith came in. Now, in years past, before Smith's injury, then Smith would have been right there in the same camp with guys like Russell Wilson, Marcus Mariota, Cam Newton. He was very athletic in terms of being able to scramble, and he was a very mobile quarterback. Because of his limitations with his mobility, Scott Turner had to really kind of change his offense. So by using that example, it's not that Washington is necessarily looking for another Cam Newton. He's not necessarily looking for Russell Wilson. I said that in my last video, and I will keep saying that. Russell Wilson is always going to be the best pick. But if Wilson is not interested in coming to Washington and the price just, the deal just isn't right, then certainly you're going to look at guys like Derrick Carr. You're going to look at guys like Marcus Mariota. And as stated before, Washington is looking at every single quarterback who may be available either through free agency or through a trade, whatever the case is. Washington's going to gauge interest. They're going to kind of see what the deal is. So you're going to hear reports of the Washington football team being interested in someone like Sam Darnold. And we all can be kind of down on Sam Darnold, but I really think that Sam has not really had the supporting cast around him in New York. So it's possible that he comes to Washington and lights everything up. Now, aside from Russell Wilson, let's just say that he is off the table. Let's say that Sean Watson is off the table, and we are open to trade for any other quarterback that may be available. Why would Marcus Mariota make the most sense? Well, certainly I think that he would probably come as the cheaper option. Although the way that his contract is worked out right now, if any team decides to trade for him and keep his current contract, it's going to cost them $20 million against the salary cap. So obviously you would renegotiate that if you could. But still, I think besides that, I think that Mariota would certainly be the cheaper deal. Would certainly be a lot cheaper than trying to go out and spend draft picks on Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson. And who knows, maybe even spending draft picks on Derrick Carr as well. So certainly you have the cost effectiveness. I think, having the cost, it's going to be cheaper to get someone like Marcus Mariota. And yes, I know there's always going to be something in the back of our minds. We're going to say that, well, we had a second overall round draft pick with Robert Griffin III back in 2012. We just have not had any good luck with first round draft picks. But sometimes it just takes, going to a different team. Sometimes it just takes going to a different city, having a different coach to coach you, being in a different system. And this could be good for either guys like Sam Darnold or Marcus Mariota or anybody like that. Honestly, the more I think about it, the more I'm really starting to think that it may be less likely that the Las Vegas Raiders would want to give up Derrick Carr. Now, there have been reports, like I said in my last video, and I can leave a link in the description for that video, but there have been reports that the Las Vegas Raiders might be interested in Russell Wilson. But then again, everybody is interested in Russell Wilson, right? Let's say that the Raiders do decide to make a play for Russell Wilson, they get him, then obviously now there's going to be some interesting things happening, because what happens to Derrick Carr? What happens to Marcus Mariota? Maybe there's a trade and Derrick Carr goes to Seattle, or maybe Marcus Mariota goes to Seattle. Honestly, though, I think that Washington's offensive line, even though it needs more help, it needs more depth, I really believe that their offensive line is better than Seattle's. And so if I'm a quarterback, I want to go where I feel like I'm going to be protected. And I think that Washington's offensive line is just one good solid left tackle away from being a very solid offensive line. And as we've already seen with the defense, I believe that the football team is doing it right as far as building from the trenches, from the inside out, to build this team. So I really honestly believe you're going to keep seeing that. So if you're a potential quarterback candidate who's looking to move to another team, I think you look at Washington before you look at anybody else. But, I am a Washington football team fan. I am a fanatic. So, of course, I'm going to say that. So what do you think is going to happen? I'm really starting to think that we're not going to just roll with Taylor Heinicke. Taylor Heinicke, as I said before, he is definitely the most favorite in Washington right now. We are all loving some Heinicke because he's taken Washington by storm with how well he played in that game and a half this past season. So we're all rooting for him. I mean, heck, if he becomes the next Kurt Warner, I would be happy as a pig in mud if that happens, or a hog in mud. Maybe I should say that, since this is a Redskins YouTube channel. But let me know in the comment section what you think. Do we go after Marcus Mariota? I think I really do think that he might be the best option for us as far as cost and as far as fitting the mold. Or do you think it's going to be Sam Darnold? And then I'm hearing the crickets because for some reason I don't think anybody is really liking the idea of Sam Darnold. Hey, if you like this video, then give me a like, leave me a comments in the comment section. Let me know what you think about this video. And as well, if you're really liking this channel, please consider subscribing and becoming a Washington football fanatic with me. I love this team, and I think we're going to be putting out some great content on the way, so you're not going to want to miss that. That's all I have for today, folks. You guys take care, and hail to the Washington football team.